Hey y'all, I'm at I-78. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. All right, we are awaiting the press conference from the Pentagon by the Secretary of Defense. For those of y'all who were with us last night, the United States dropped 3 bombs on nuclear power sites over in Iran, and we are waiting on the remarks, like I said, from the Secretary of Defense, so we can find out what they are anticipating happening now, as Iran has declared that they are going to retaliate. So this is about to get interesting.
We want the best for we the people.
Let's see
And
what
we're
we got.
glad that you
Once again, we are checking out this coverage from our friends over at RSBN. Be sure to subscribe to them if you have not, and they should be on in just a second. We're gonna see if they on time like they should be, or they're gonna follow in behind the president.
the other day going to see Les Mis with the First Lady. So we're here for the live coverage of what's going on in Washington, D.C. and indirectly now globally, as we've covered President Trump's trips all over the place, from Canada to the Netherlands coming up from June 24th to the 26th. So the question is, Carolyn Levitt said 2 days ago that the trip to the NATO summit was still on for President Trump, June 24th to 26th. That's in 2 days. The president is actually supposed to leave, I believe, tomorrow, the 23rd, to head to the Netherlands. Will that trip still happen? That's a big question. Outside of what's going to happen now with this situation that, after the U.S. struck Iran, will Iran's proxies do anything? Or are they all crippled in the sense of with what Israel and our country just did? Who knows? All right, let's get ready to go to the Pentagon here as it's 8:02 a.m. Eastern time. Have yet to see the two leaders yet, but I believe it's going to happen any minute from now. So, yeah, we're going to be here for all the coverage, and whether it's online on Truth Social, on X, on Facebook, on our app, on our website, and live here on the channel, Right Side Broadcasting Network. So this is RSBN Live. It's 8:02 Sunday, June 22nd. Looking to see if there's any more reports coming from any of the... let's go to Washington, D.C.
All right, here we go.
Well, thank you for joining us this morning. Last night, on President Trump's orders, U.S. Central Command conducted a precision strike in the middle of the night against 3 nuclear facilities in Iran, Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan, in order to destroy or severely degrade Iran's nuclear program. And as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs will demonstrate, it was an incredible and overwhelming success. The order we received from our commander-in-chief was focused, it was powerful, and it was clear. We devastated the Iranian nuclear program. But it's worth noting the operation did not target Iranian troops or the Iranian people. For the entirety of his time in office, President Trump has consistently stated for over 10 years that Iran must not get a nuclear weapon. Full stop. Thanks to President Trump's bold and visionary leadership and his commitment to peace through strength, Iran's nuclear ambitions have been obliterated. Many presidents have dreamed of delivering the final blow to Iran's nuclear program, and none could until President Trump. The operation President Trump planned was bold and it was brilliant, showing the world that American deterrence is back. When this president speaks, the world should listen. And the U.S. military, we can back it up. The most powerful military the world has ever known. No other country on planet Earth could have conducted the operation that the chairman is going to outline this morning. Not even close. Just like Soleimani found out in the first term, Iran found out when POTUS says 60 days that he seeks peace and negotiation, he means 60 days of peace and negotiation. Otherwise, that nuclear program, that nuclear capability will not exist. He meant it. This is not the previous administration. The President Trump said no nukes. He seeks peace, and Iran should take that path. He sent out a truth last night saying this: any retaliation by Iran against the United States of America will be met with force far greater than what was witnessed tonight. Signed, the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Iran would be smart to heed those words. He's said it before, and he means it. I want to give recognition to the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Joint Staff, General Eric Kurilla at CENTCOM, who did a phenomenal job, he and his staff, all of CENTCOM. Policy across the board, this was a joint effort, and across the Pentagon effort. I want to recognize the pilots who flew those bombers, who flew those fighters, who flew those refuelers, warriors. I want to recognize the sailors on those destroyers, in those subs, on those carriers, warriors, all of them. I want to recognize our soldiers doing air defense, base defense, QRF, warriors, all of them. Every American involved in this operation performed flawlessly. And I want to give recognition to our allies in Israel as well. This is a plan that took months and weeks of positioning and preparation so that we could be ready when the President of the United States called. It took a great deal of precision. It involved misdirection and the highest of operational security. Our B-2s went in and out of downtown Tehran, of these nuclear sites, in and out and back without the world knowing at all. In that way, it was historic. A strike that included the longest B-2 Spirit bomber mission since 2001 and the first operational employment of the MOP, a massive ordnance penetrator. The mission demonstrated to the world the level of joint and allied integration that speak to the strength of our alliance and our joint forces. As President Trump has stated, the United States does not seek war, but let me be clear. We will act swiftly and decisively when our people, our partners, or our interests are threatened. Iran should listen to the President of the United States and know that he means it, every word. I want to give congratulations to our Commander-in-Chief. It was an honor to watch him lead last night and throughout, and to our great American warriors on this successful operation. God bless our troops. God bless America. And we give glory to God for his providence and continue to ask for his protection. I turn it over now to the chairman for specifics.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thanks for recognizing all of our folks out there doing our nation's work, and nice to see everybody on this early Sunday morning. Last night, on the President's orders, U.S. Central Command, under the command of General Eric Kurilla, executed Operation Midnight Hammer, a deliberate and precise strike against 3 Iranian nuclear facilities. This was a complex and high-risk mission carried out with exceptional skill and discipline by our joint force. I want to thank every service member, planner, operator that made this mission possible. Their actions reflect the highest standards of the United States Armed Forces. This operation was designed to severely degrade Iran's nuclear weapons infrastructure. It was planned and executed across multiple domains and theaters with coordination that reflects our ability to project power globally with speed and precision at the time and place of our nation's choosing. This was a highly classified mission with very few people in Washington knowing the timing or nature of this plan. I'll refer you to the graphic on the side as I walk you through some of the operational details. At midnight Friday into Saturday morning, a large B-2 strike package comprised of bombers launched from the continental United States. As part of a plan to maintain tactical surprise, part of the package proceeded to the west and into the Pacific as a decoy, a deception effort known only to an extremely small number of planners and key leaders here in Washington and in Tampa. The main strike package, comprised of 7 B-2 Spirit bombers, each with 2 crew members, proceeded quietly to the east with minimal communications. Throughout the 18-hour flight into the target area, the aircraft completed multiple in-flight refuelings. Once over land, the B-2s linked up with escort and support aircraft in a complex, tightly timed maneuver requiring exact synchronization across multiple platforms in a narrow piece of airspace, all done with minimal communications. This type of integration is exactly what our joint force does better than anyone else in the world. At approximately 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time last night, and just prior to the strike package entering Iran, a U.S. submarine in the Central Command area of responsibility launched more than 24 Tomahawk land attack cruise missiles against key surface infrastructure targets at Esfahan. As the Operation Midnight Hammer strike package entered Iranian airspace, the U.S. employed several deception tactics, including decoys, as the 4th and 5th generation aircraft pushed out in front of the strike package at high altitude and high speed, sweeping in front of the package for enemy fighters and surface-to-air missile threats. The strike package was supported by U.S. Strategic Command, U.S. Transportation Command, U.S. Cyber Command, U.S. Space Command, U.S. Space Force, and U.S. European Command. As the strike package approached Fordow and Natanz, the U.S. protection package employed high-speed suppression weapons to ensure safe passage of the strike package, with fighter assets employing preemptive suppressing fires against any potential Iranian surface-to-air threats. We are currently unaware of any shots fired at the U.S. strike package on the way in. At approximately 6:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 2:10 a.m. Iran time, the lead B-2 dropped 2 GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator weapons on the first of several aim points at Fordow. As the president stated last night, the remaining bombers then hit their targets as well, with a total of 14 MOPs dropped against 2 nuclear target areas. All 3 Iranian nuclear infrastructure targets were struck between 6:40 p.m. and 7:05 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, that's about 2:10 in the morning local time in Iran, with the Tomahawk missiles being the last to strike at Esfahan to ensure we retain the element of surprise throughout the operation. Following weapons release, the Midnight Hammer strike package exited Iranian airspace and the package began its return home. We are unaware of any shots fired at the package on the way out. Iran's fighters did not fly, and it appears that Iran's surface-to-air missile systems did not see us. Throughout the mission, we retained the element of surprise. In total, U.S. forces employed approximately 75 precision-guided weapons during this operation. This included, as the president stated last night, 14 30,000-pound GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrators, marking the first ever operational use of this weapon. I know that battle damage is of great interest. Final battle damage will take some time, but initial battle damage assessments indicate that all 3 sites sustained extremely severe damage and destruction. More than 125 U.S. aircraft participated in this mission, including B-2 stealth bombers, multiple flights of 4th and 5th generation fighters, dozens and dozens of air refueling tankers, a guided missile submarine, and a full array of intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance aircraft, as well as hundreds of maintenance and operational professionals. As the Secretary said, this was the largest B-2 operational strike in U.S. history and the second longest B-2 mission ever flown, exceeded only by those in the days following 9/11. Well prior to the strike, General Kurilla elevated force protection measures across the region, especially in Iraq, Syria, and the Gulf. Our forces remain on high alert and are fully postured to respond to any Iranian retaliation or proxy attacks, which would be an incredibly poor choice. We will defend ourselves. The safety of our service members and civilians remains our highest priority. This mission demonstrates the unmatched reach, coordination, and capability of the United States military. In just a matter of weeks, this went from strategic planning to global execution. This operation underscores the unmatched capabilities and global reach of the United States military. As the President clearly said last night, no other military in the world could have done this. I join the President and the Secretary in being incredibly proud of the air crews, naval forces, cyber operators, planners, and support teams, and commanders who made this mission possible. It is their skill, discipline, and teamwork that makes this operation possible. I am particularly proud of our discipline related to operational security, something that was of great concern to the President, the Secretary, General Kurilla, and me, and we will continue to focus on this. As we stand here this morning, many assets are still airborne, and we have hundreds deployed. I ask that we keep our warfighters on their way home and our deployed service member in our thoughts. Our joint force remains ready to defend the United States, our troops, and our interests in the region. Thank you very much.
We will take a few questions, Phil.
Me?
Yeah.
So,
Here we
is
go with
regime
questions.
change off the table, Mr. Secretary? And to the chairman, you said the battle damage assessment is still ongoing, but do you believe that some nuclear capability in Iran remains?
This mission was not and has not been about regime change. The President authorized a precision operation to neutralize the threats to our national interests posed by the Iranian nuclear program and the collective self-defense of our troops and our ally Israel.
Thanks for your question. I think BDA is still pending, and it would be way too early for me to comment on what may or may not still be there. But thanks for the question.
Green. No, behind you.
Excuse me, Mr. Secretary, can you tell me, was there a particular moment when the president decided to pull the trigger on this operation where he said, now, rather than being, something in the holster, now we're going to pull the trigger on it?
I would just say, having the opportunity to witness his leadership, he was fully committed to the peace process, wanted a negotiated outcome, gave Iran every single opportunity, and unfortunately was met by stonewalling, which is why he gave them plenty of time to continue to come to the table and give up enrichment, give up the nuclear program. But there was I won't say the particular moment, there was certainly a moment in time where he realized that it had to be a certain action taken in order to minimize the threat to us and our troops. Yeah.
General, you say that General Kurilla increased force protection in Iraq, Syria, and Gulf, in those areas. Were they given any advance warning the attacks were coming? And also, Mr. Secretary, when were congressional leaders notified? How long before the attacks took place?
Sir, to your first question, the risk has clearly been rising over the last few weeks in the region. Based on that, and not a particular awareness of this operation, we've made smart decisions to minimize the risk to U.S. forces in the region.
They were given no advance warning?
No, sir.
And congressional...
They were notified after the planes were safely out. Well, we complied with the notification requirements of the War Powers Act.
After the attacks, they were notified?
They were immediately thereafter. Yes.
Thank you, Secretary. Two quick questions. Do you believe you completely destroyed Iranian nuclear program? And how about Iranian ballistic missiles? Your ally as Israel always saying that is biggest threat. And second question is very important. What will be your next step if Iran or militias under Iranian influence on the region attack U.S. interests or allies in the region?
And you can chime in on this too, Mr. Chairman. The battle damage assessment is ongoing, but our initial assessment, as the chairman said, is that all of our precision munitions struck where we wanted them to strike and had the desired effect, which means especially in Fordow, which was the primary target here, we believe we achieved destruction of capabilities there. Ultimately, wherever it may be, whether it's in Iraq or Syria or bases in the Gulf, as the president said, it would be, as the chairman said, it would be a very bad idea for Iran or its proxies to attempt to attack American forces. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Regarding retaliations, Iran and North Korea are cooperating on nuclear and missile development. Do you think there is a possibility that Iran, North Korea, and the other forces, such as China, will join forces to retaliate against the United States?
Well, unfortunately, because of the policies under the previous administration, we drove those countries together, and ultimately that creates a challenging environment. For this particular operation, the focus is on Iran and Iranian nuclear capabilities. That's our focus here, is to not just say that they can't have, but President Trump has said from over 20 years, frankly, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. And ultimately, he decided this is the moment, given their stonewalling, when direct military action had to be taken to prevent that from happening. Yes.
Thank you very much. General Caine, I understand OPSEC, I respect OPSEC. Can you say at all what security procedures are being taken to protect U.S. troops in Iraq and elsewhere in the Middle East? And Secretary Hegseth, as a global war on terrorism veteran, what do you say to veterans who may be concerned the U.S. is getting into another open-ended war in the Middle East over weapons of mass destruction?
Thanks, sir, for the question. I won't comment on what force protection measures are being taken in the region. What I will say is we're being proactive and not reactive, and being very thoughtful about ensuring that we do all that we can to protect our forces out there.
And I would just say, as the president has directed and made clear, this is most certainly not open-ended. It doesn't mean it limits our ability to respond. We will respond if necessary. The most powerful military in the world is postured and prepared to defend our people. But what the president gave us, as I said, was a focused, powerful, and clear mission on the destruction of Iranian nuclear capabilities. Those were the targets. That's what was struck. That's what was overwhelming. That's what was overwhelming. That's what the Iranian regime needs to understand, as the president put out last night. He wants peace. There needs to be a negotiated settlement here. We ultimately demonstrated that Iran cannot have a nuclear capability. That is a very clear mission set on this operation. Yes, hold on. Yes, right there.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Question for the Secretary and the Chairman. How was this strike coordinated with the Israelis on a strategic level, militarily, and on a tactical level? Was there any direct Israeli military participation in this operation?
Well, I would say certainly Israel had an incredible military success, especially at the beginning and ongoing, in degrading Iranian capabilities, in degrading Iranian launchers, MRBMs. It's been incredible to watch what our ally Israel has been able to do. And there certainly have been conversations. I mean, General Kurilla at CENTCOM has worked closely in the defense of Israel for many years. And part of this operation was the defense of Israel and the ongoing defense of Israel. But as it pertains to this strike, this was U.S. operated and U.S. led.
We took advantage of some of the preparatory work that's been done over the past week and a half in terms of axis of approach. I won't get into the particulars, but as the Secretary said, it was a U.S. strike. We made sure we were not in the same piece of airspace and sky. Aside from that, that was the extent of it.
We'll take a couple more. Yeah, right there.
Question to the Secretary first. Are you concerned whatsoever now about the reaction from U.S. allies given the strike, particularly those in the Gulf? And to the Chairman, if I may, I understand you don't want to speak to specific assets and force protection measures, but do you anticipate at least having to bring in any further assets from other theaters to aid in force protection over the coming days?
We certainly understand the challenges of allies in the region, and we have been respectful and working in collaboration with them as it pertains to basing and sensitivities there. Ultimately, they've got a lot of assets and people in those locations also where American troops are co-located. So that's a consideration of ours. We've been in close consultation with them, and we appreciate the support that we have got.
Thanks for the question on sort of the global picture. And as you know, that's one of my jobs, is to look globally at the entire range of challenges. We are always carefully considering our force posture around the world, and then offering options to the Secretary and to the President. I won't comment on any future things, but the American people should know that we carefully consider those moves around the world and try to modulate as needed our force structure in the region.
Absolutely. Yeah, right here.
Thank you. What communications are being sent to the Iranians right now, and is there any possibility of diplomacy now or in the coming days?
I can only confirm that there are both public and private messages being directly delivered to the Iranians in multiple channels, giving them every opportunity to come to the table. They understand precisely what the American position is, precisely what steps they can take to allow for peace, and we hope they do so. Yes.
The president may not want an open-ended conflict. The Iranians may disagree. Are you prepared for a protracted war?
Well, anything can happen in conflict. We acknowledge that. But the scope of this was intentionally limited. That's the message that we're sending. With the capabilities of the American military nearly unlimited. So Iran, in that sense, has a choice. But we've made it very clear to them, this is nuclear sites, this is nuclear capabilities, this is the line that the president set, and we set that back. Now is the time to come forward for peace. But I think one of the takeaways from this as well is the unprecedented level of ongoing cooperation. I can't speak highly enough of the chairman and his staff and General Kurilla in CENTCOM, what they've done to look around the corner, to pre-position, to understand how an operation like this comes together. The scope and scale of what occurred last night would take the breath away of almost any American if you had an opportunity to watch it in real time. And I think Tehran is certainly calculating the reality that planes flew from the middle of America in Missouri overnight, completely undetected over 3 of their most highly sensitive sites, and we were able to destroy nuclear capabilities. And our boys in those bombers are on their way home right now. We believe that'll have a clear psychological impact on how they view the future, and we certainly hope they take the path of negotiated peace. But I could not be more proud of how this building operated, of the precision, the sensitivity, and the professionalism of the troops involved in this effort. I will take one more. We'll take one more question. Yes, right there.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Concerning the justification for these strikes, in March, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence released their threat assessment, concluding, quote, Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Caine has not authorized the nuclear programs he suspended in 2003, unquote. So what new intelligence does the U.S. have since then that the Iranians have changed their position on nuclear weapons? And does this new intelligence come from U.S. sources and methods, or are we getting this information from other countries?
Well, I would just simply say that the president's made it very clear. He's looked at all of this, all of the intelligence, all of the information, and come to the conclusion that the Iranian nuclear program is a threat, and was willing to take this precision operation to neutralize that threat in order to advance American national interests, reduce the Iranian nuclear program, and obviously collective self-defense of ourselves and our allies. So he looked at all of it, understood the nature of the threat, and took bold action I think the American people would expect in a commander-in-chief. That's all we've got. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, do you have any of the WC-135s up to check for radioactive material in the atmosphere?
All right, so it looks like that is all from the Secretary of Defense says fear mongering. Could be. We have gotten a few answers. I'm sure much more information will be made available to us as it is coming in. Again, just to recap, yesterday the president authorized the release of 3 missiles on nuclear sites over in Iran. This comes 2 days after he had decided that he was going to take 2 weeks to decide what course of action he was going to take. He gave an address to the country last night about 10 o'clock, giving just a brief outline of what was going on. And sorry, and this particular press conference this morning has given us much more information. What? Hey, 18, good morning. So, early this morning, about 12:15 or so, Iran vowed to retaliate. We will see how that's gonna work out. Not Russia. You say Russia's who we need to watch now. He's pissed, warned Trump not to bump. Well, yeah, but we gonna see. Yeah, I feel like that's what we need to be keeping our eye on is Russia and China. I don't know why he's really worrying about Iran, but we'll see. So they're saying that the strike, I mean, what else are we going to really expect them to say? But the strike was successful and that, the plane sustained massive damage. So, I mean, we're talking about President Trump. Like, what else is he really going to say? It was trash. But according to them, it was successful. Their ability to produce nuclear weapons has been severely diminished. So we will see if any other countries, step in and try to help them out, and if they are in fact able to retaliate. We're gonna see. So, y'all, a lot of people are saying that this is the beginning of World War III. We're gonna see. That's what all I can say. We gonna see. A lot of people are anticipating the price of gas and oil to go up because of this. So a lot of people, were saying that today they were going to, go out and fill up and all that good stuff. So, I mean, if that's something that you are considering doing, I might want to go ahead and work that out. Okay. Hey, Draco, what you say? Russia has its hands full with Ukraine. They did evacuate their nuclear scientists. Okay. We're going to see. We got somebody here saying, I'm from Iran. Our internet was disconnected from the world. What's going on? What is going on? Is U.S. going to war with us? According to our president, y'all, go ahead and negotiate some peace and stand down. No. But he's saying a lot of stonewalling been going on. And if that continues and any type of retaliation, he said we coming back. So that's what's going on with that. That is what's going on. And then we have someone in the chat, Edie Gray, who was saying that it's a good idea to get some potassium oxide, which will protect you in case of exposure to, nuclear weapons, and water purified tablets. So she's saying if you can get those at Walmart, and they are somewhere in the neighborhood between $5 to $10, just depending on what who's making it and where you actually get it from. What you say? Just like throwing the first punch and saying let's calm down. I get it. I get it. I give you that for real. Because again, I just don't understand why we need to be involved in that. We got stuff going on over here. Them people been fighting since the beginning of time. Let them do what it is they do. You say just want to know when the time comes. Listen, so yeah, because I think it was the 60 days that President Trump was talking about. Was the 60 days over? I honestly I don't know. I'm gonna have to go back and look at that. Was the 60 days over, or did you just like completely jump the gun and go ahead and send them over there because you wanted to test it out and see what was going on? Like, come on, y'all. Let's take a quick peek at Sky News to see how the rest of the world looking at us. Hold on. What'd you say, Draco? This is not the first punch just because Iran used practices to attack American ships and allied shipping lanes. Hell yeah. All right, hold on. We'll hit Sky News. Stay always entertaining. Hold on.
And allow it to manage its response in a way that is contained.
Yeah, absolutely. And this pushing this messaging that this is a one and done operation, that the United States does not want to see this escalate further. And perhaps that's why we're seeing also these reports coming out that the United States had contacted Iranian officials to let them know of their intentions. James, I'm going to keep you there for the moment and bring in our security and defense editor, Deborah Haynes. And Deborah, we're just hearing there from James on some of the detailing around the military hardware that was used in the series of strikes against Iran, which is being described as Operation Midnight Hammer. We're being told that more than 125 U.S. military aircraft participated in the operation. So it's not just about the B-2s, but it's all the support that's needed, the surveillance that's needed, the refueling that's needed for an operation like this. And we're also being told it was the largest B-2 operational strike in U.S. history and the second largest B-2 mission ever flown, only exceeded by missions after 9/11.
Yes, and also the first time that the Americans have used this 30,000-pound bomb in combat. And interesting for people that track these kinds of things, that each of the bombers was actually loaded with 2 of those massive ordnance that were then dropped, each of them dropping 2 onto their targets, it would seem. And I thought it was very interesting what the US military chief was saying about how they used decoys and deception techniques to be able to conduct this operation with maximum secrecy. When the bomber package left the continental United States, there were other bombers too, and they headed west. While the attack aircraft headed east. And then just before they entered into Iranian airspace, he said that an American submarine launched more than 24 TLAM cruise missiles at surface targets. And then the bombers went into the airspace. In front of them, they had 4th and 5th generation fighter jets that were there to protect the bomber aircraft on the mission. And the American military chief said that as far as they're aware, there were no Iranian strikes or attempts to strike against the American force as it went into Iranian airspace, which would indicate either that the Iranian missile defenses and air forces have been so degraded by Israel over the last week and a half that they had no ability to respond, or that the deception techniques worked and they actually were just caught by surprise that this was happening, or that they had been given forewarning and decided not to attack. But either way, I thought it was very interesting that there was no engagement at all, and they were able to conduct this mission. The whole operation lasted just 25 minutes with these bombs dropped on their targets, the TLAMs, cruise missiles launched against their targets, and then the American aircraft moving out. And like you say, a pretty extraordinary military feat for them to be able to travel 18 hours onto the target and then presumably 18 hours back home.
Yeah, they're not even
each
back yet.
aircraft with 2 crews that would have been on rotation as they were conducting the operation.
Deborah, thank you so much for that update. Let's bring in our Stuart Ramsey, who joins us now live from northern Iraq in Erbil. And we're just listening there to Pete Hegseth, as well as the Joint Chiefs Chairman, General Caine, talking about how they wanted this to be precision and the fact that they don't want this to escalate beyond this point. There are even some reports that perhaps the Iranians were given a heads up that this was coming, to ensure that they understood that this was one and done, although the United States is making it clear that they have the capabilities to strike again if need be. So very clear messaging to the Iranians: do not retaliate. But that's certainly, not the kind of reassurance that the people where you are feeling, because of course there are a number of military bases in Iraq, and the whole region is currently on edge.
Yeah, and those bases are now, we're told in that press conference, on very high alert. I think it's very interesting, isn't it, that throughout those 2 speeches and the questions that happened, the point being reiterated, apart from the technical stuff and the actual attack itself, but the absolute warnings to Iran that if you attack military assets anywhere in this region, in Iraq, in Syria, in the Gulf, then there will be an immediate response. But it went further than that. It's something that we've been talking about all day. It's the proxies in Syria and here in Iraq. They were given an absolute clear message that to do anything against the American bases, there's one not far away from here, would be a very bad idea. They're making it clear, and these proxies have made it clear themselves, that they will carry out attacks on American bases, but the Americans are making it equally clear that they will pay for that if they do. They went on to talk about force protection. They wouldn't give any of the details, but basically all the soldiers here, all the bases are now on very high alert. That force protection, as they say, is proactive, and they're thoughtful about protecting their forces. So they've obviously got plans in place. Those forces were told to be on high alert, pertaining to the conditions in the area and that things had got worse. They weren't told that this attack was about to happen. After it had happened, it was explained to them why it was so important that they raise their security levels. And so that will be what is happening here as the region braces itself for a potential attack by Iran or by the proxies. It could happen at any time. Of course, what's interesting, in Iran in the past has taken a while to respond to attacks upon it. So it doesn't mean that it's going to happen today, tonight, or for a few days, or even longer. But certainly the proxies here, the contacts that we have who have contacts with them, are saying that if America was to attack, they would attack American assets. Whether the warnings from the United States will be adhered to, listened to, we'll have to see. But obviously America is making it abundantly clear to everyone that this may be a one-off big operation, but it's more than capable of carrying out other operations, which, as the President said, would be much easier.
Yeah, and Stuart, I guess in many ways, of all the different places in the region that is vulnerable, and we know that there are at least 9-10 countries that are concerned about Iranian retaliation here across the Middle East. It's Iraq in the past that has sustained the sort of attacks on its bases and military hardware in the past, which is why in the first instance, about a week and a half ago, they started to move non-essential staff out of those embassies, out of those bases, their families out of harm's way, because part of that calculus was that something like this may evolve, and the Iranians would and could potentially hit back.
Yeah, and we understand, for example, that the embassy in Baghdad is virtually empty now of American staff. I mean, this is what we're being told. We've no reason to disbelieve it. I think what's interesting for Iraq, it is, as you say, so many other countries are within shooting distance of Iran, for want of a better expression. But what's really unique about Iraq is that it has to have relations, and does have relations, with both the United States. It's got troops here. It's very close to the United States. It helps with its stability. But also, because of its leanings towards Iran, its sheer political base, its sheer supporters here, the majority, are close to Iran. So it's a fine dividing line for the government to keep on side with both sides. If the Shia militia, and it's worth remembering, they are part of the military structure of this country. They're not just wandering about on their own, they are part of it. If they ignore the government's advice not to do anything and carry out those attacks, then America will respond. That means an ally will be attacking an ally in Iraq. So it's very, very difficult for the government here. And of course, they know that Iran will be looking at their behavior as well and be wanting to know why they're not doing something to support them. So it's a tough one for them. It's where they find themselves. And I say it is unique because it's right in the middle of everything. And not least, actually, the airspace, which Israel has been using at will to attack in Iran. It is infuriated the Iraqis, but there is actually nothing they can do to stop those jets going overhead. They just don't have the power to do that. So they've had to just make noise about it, but except they can't do anything about it. But it is just one element that shows just how stuck in the middle this country is.
Yeah, absolutely. Stuart, thank you, as always, for all of your reporting there. Now, Iran's...
All right, yeah. So, yeah, looks like we are... Sorry about that. All right, so yeah, it looks like, saying that is basically all the information we are going to give for right now. Again, U.S. dropped 3 strikes on the 3 major nuclear power centers over in Iran yesterday. They're saying it was successful and that they are basically disabled as far as being able to participate in any type of war is concerned. Iran is saying that they are going to retaliate. We'll see how that goes. All of this is in response to them not wanting to reach any type of peace agreement with Israel. So we'll see if the president comes back out and has anything to say. If he does, I will bring it to you. So make sure you have your notifications on. Hit the like button on your way out. Thank you guys for stopping by. And I will see y'all later. Have a great Sunday and make sure you get some rest. Bye.